1831. It was an era where the girl child did not have access to education. There was no formal schooling that the girl was allowed to do. It was an era or a time when child marriages was the norm. It was an era where the lower caste were suppressed, oppressed, and depressed. They were abused, they were exploited, and they were labeled as untouchables. In such a social cultural milieu, a baby girl, Savitri, is born to Kandoji Patil and Lakshmi Bai, who belong to the Mali community. Now, soon when she was 9 years of age, she was married off to Jyotiba, who was also only 13 years old at that time. But since he belonged to the Mali community, he had to drop out of school, of which he was enrolled in. At that time, it was British India, and a British scholar named Lizit Sahab, along with a Persian official whose name was Beg Zafar Beg Munshi, helped Jyotiba to enroll in a Scottish missionary school, who then managed to study up till the 7th standard. But after the 7th standard, he had to leave the school. So, whatever knowledge he gained and he acquired in those years, he went home and home tutored Savitribai. So now Savitribai could read, write, and study. Soon in the year 1848, Savitribai, who was only 17 and Jyotiba 21, opened the first school for girls in Pune, at Bhidewadi, and at Maharwadi, along with the help of Sagunabai, who was a mentor of Jyotiba. The curriculum in these schools, was physics, chemistry, maths, and which was very significantly different from what the curriculum in the government schools were. In the government schools, enrolled were only boys, and that too who were from the upper caste. The curriculum in these government schools was largely focused on Brahminical texts and scriptures. Now, the teaching methods which Savitribai and Jyotiba adopted were also very interesting and different from what the boys in the government school experienced. Slowly and gradually, the number of schools increased to three, and the girls who enrolled in these schools, the number rose up to 150. But it was not easy for Savitribai to teach these young girls who had just joined the school. Why? Because when she left her home, she was heralded with abuses, verbal abuses. The males, particularly the Brahmins and the Brahmin priests, would throw dirt on her, they would throw cow dung on her and consider it that she is doing something terrible because she was teaching girls. But Savitribai was firm and determined. She would carry an extra sari with her, and on reaching the school, she would change and continue teaching the girls. But the pressure started mounting on Jyotiba's father, and socially he was pressurized to ask Savitribai and Jyotiba to leave from their house. So Savitribai and Jyotiba, this couple, they left Jyotiba's father's place and went to Usman Sheikh's house, who was a friend of Jyotiba. At Usman Sheikh's house, Savitribai in the year 1849 started a school for girls within the house premises, along with Fatima Sheikh, who was Usman Sheikh's sister. Savitribai and Fatima Sheikh together completed the teacher training course, which was offered at that time in Ahmednagar, and both were now certified teachers. Subsequently, what also happened was two trusts were established. One is the female native school for girls in Pune, and second, a society for the promotion and the development of Mahars and Mangs was established. Now, under these two umbrellas, several schools were opened up. And in the year 1855, as Savitribai and Fatima Sheikh became headmistresses of the schools in which they were teaching. Savitribai was an author. She was a poetess too. In her verses, Kavya Phule, which was published in the year 1854. She wrote and she urged the oppressed class to go get education, to break away from the shackles of this caste system, to break away from the shackles of oppression, to get freedom. Education was the only way to empower yourself. This is what she believed in. In the year 1894, she went ahead and published Bhavan Kashi Ratnakar, a book that she wrote on the evils of society and how one could handle them. In the year 1852, she established or she formed the Mahila Seva Mandal, where she invited women of all communities together to sit on the same floor mat. Now, this was unheard of because the scheduled caste women would usually sit separately from the higher caste women. In a society where child marriage was the norm, in a society where widow remarriage was not allowed, and the girl who got married to a man who was almost 20, 30, and 40, and even 50 years older to her, soon became young widows. And these widows were in a bad condition because they were sexually abused, they were tortured, and they were socially isolated. Often they were pregnant and they would deliver babies out of wedlock. So, for these young widows who delivered children out of wedlock, or because their husband also was no longer alive and they were pregnant at that point of time, she started a center called the Bal Hatya Pratibodhak Kendra, where a young mother could come and leave her baby, especially if she was a widow, and this shelter home would look after that baby. Savitribai went ahead and adopted a baby boy from this very shelter home whose name was Yashwant. Savitribai also campaigned against child marriage and for widow remarriage. Now, this was revolutionary. Around the 1870s, let's move ahead a little further, there were establishments and organizations like the Brahmo Samaj, the Arya Samaj, and the Pratishthan Samaj. Now, these organizations mainly catered to the interests of the Brahmins, neglecting the untouchables, the Malis, and the monks. They had no space. So, in order to give them a voice and give them a platform for some space, Jyotiba established in the year 1873 the Satya Shodhak Kendra, which helped the Malis and the monks and other backward communities to come together to have a platform for expression. In the year 1890, unfortunately, Jyotiba died. And again, Savitribai proved to be revolutionary. She lit his funeral pyre without hesitation at a time where women were not even allowed to go to the cremation ground. She continued his work with zest and zeal, and now, for the first time in Satyashodak Samaj, she she started a marriage which was without dowry, a marriage which was without Brahmin rituals, and a marriage which was without a Brahmin priest. In fact, her son Yashwant also had an intercaste marriage through the Satyashodak Samaj, which was established by his father Jyotiba. At a meeting in Saswat, later on, when Savitribai also chaired a session. Now, this was unheard of because women rarely occupied public space, and nobody would actually want them to give this seat of power. But as she was dynamic and revolutionary, she did this. In the year 1893, let's go ahead a little further, bubonic plague had spread across in Pune and Maharashtra, in several parts of Maharashtra. So, to cater to the patient's needs and to help them to have cure and treatment, she opened up a clinic in Hadapsar. And while treating a patient, helping him to get treatment and some curative measures, she herself contracted this disease and died in the same year. From a humble beginning, a life full of struggle, hardships, and more, Savitribai did not get recognition as the first female or the first women teacher of India until beyond her death. And and also as a contribution towards a crusader of social evils. It was only recently, in the year 2014, that the Pune University has renamed the university as Savitribai Phule Pune University as a recognition of her contribution towards the work that she did and as a crusader against social evils. Leaving a legacy is not easy. It's difficult, but it's worth it. Every bit of it.